Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
This podcast is an IVM production, and you can also check out their other awesome shows like IVM Likes, a show for your weekly dose of pop culture recommendations, whether it's books, movies, or TV shows by the folks in the IVM office.
You're listening to the Drinks and Destinations podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Drinks and Destinations podcast. I'm your host Rajita, and I have Samira with me in the studio.
Hi Rajita, how are you?
I'm good, Samira. How are you?
It's been a while, huh?
I know. We haven't recorded a new episode in a very long time.
I agree with you, and it feels good to be back in the studio. And I'm sure for everyone who's wondering where we have been, what we have been up to, well, whenever we are missing for a long time, we just want to tell you that we're just getting great content for you, or
Absolutely.
just getting drunk somewhere in some part of the world.
Yes, that's true. And in fact, I just returned from Spain, and I was also in Austria,
Right.
visiting the Austrian wine region, which is just stunning. It's so beautiful.
I believe so, and it's one of those rare places, like it's very unique, has
Yes.
even about the wine, like Austria, if you talk about it, it's not the first name that would come up when we talk about wines, but
Yeah.
that's changing now, is it?
Yes, it's been a wine growing region for a very long time. It's just that in the middle of the 80s, they had some issues in the wine industry. And then the industry went on a complete revival. And things have changed in the last few years. The fact of the matter is because they produce wine from some really typical indigenous grape varieties, which may not be so popular worldwide, except one or two grapes. Austrian wine industry has not yet gained that kind of reputation that it should have, but they definitely produce
They're
great
on the
quality wines,
Right.
and they have done it a lot in the last few years, and they're definitely doing something really great.
Yes, and which we are going to talk about in our episode today. So I'm sure you all are wondering what all we have in store for you. So let's tell you the leading topics of today. In the Wine 101 section, we have wines of Austria.
Yes.
And after that, in the D&D chat section, you chatted with Mr. Willy Klinger. He's MD, Austrian Wine Marketing Board.
Yeah, that's right. And he's a really great guy and lovely to talk to. And I had met him a couple of years back in one of the
Okay.
events and interviewed him at that time.
Yeah.
And this time when I met him again, it was really wonderful because we were talking about how things have changed in the last few years in the Austrian wine industry.
Right.
How the marketing board has actually been successful in popularizing Austrian wines all over the world. So in D&D chat segment, we'll listen to him. And in the About Town segment today, we are talking about the World Whiskey Day, which was celebrated on 20th May, which is basically celebrated on the third Saturday every year. And what happens on a World Whiskey Day, why people celebrate Whiskey Day, and why is it so important? We'll talk about all that.
Long, long ago, not in Bethlehem, but in a place nearby, there was a wonderful birth of a huge show, which I like to call Cyrus Says. A show that encapsulates everything in human history, from the first Homo sapien to the last Homo sapien, who's traversed the entire world and then come back to India. This is a show which tells you everything about everything. If you want to know, avoid Google, come to us. It's called Cyrus Says. Get new episodes every Monday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts on. You get one banana water free with every podcast. Right. I'll just check that.
Wine 101.
All right, so let's begin with our Wine 101 section where we talk about wines of Austria. And firstly, let's just start talking about Austria, which sounds like a very fascinating place.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what I know about Austria and what it's famous for, apart from the wines, of course, is that the world famous classical music composer Mozart is from there.
Yes.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger was an Austrian citizen.
Okay, yeah, that's true. And also, Austria is known for its really quality gastronomy. They have
yes.
quite a lot of Michelin-starred restaurants.
Right.
And they
I
also
saw
have...
the pictures on your Instagram.
Yes, I dined at two of them.
Very delicious looking food.
Yeah, lovely, and that was quite an experience actually. You know, and plus it's also famous for its desserts. So so they have some beautiful, places like Demel, which is in the heart of Vienna city, which is famous for its different kinds of, sweets and different kinds of pastries, cakes and desserts, different varieties, and you'll always find a lot of people gathered in that shop.
Oh, nice.
I had a really short visit to the place, and I just picked up
How
a
many
bar
days
of
were you
chocolate.
there for in Austria?
So I was invited by the Austrian Wine Marketing Board
Okay.
to this event called the Austrian Wine Summit, which is organized by the marketing board to help people from all over the world get more awareness about Austrian wines. And this was for around 71 journalists from all over the world who were invited for this, wine journalists, writers, bloggers, consultants, and we were basically divided in 4 groups, and each group had to visit a few regions in Austria, wine regions, and I belonged to one group which visited in the heart of sparkling wine producers in Austria. The sparkling wine from Austria is called Sekt.
Okay.
And then we visited, the first region was Kamtal,
Okay.
second was Wagram, and third was Karuntam.
Okay.
So all these regions were we spent around 4 days in all 3 regions, and one day we were in Vienna. So I didn't have too much time to look around Vienna, but whatever time I had, I just I went out and visited the city. It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean,
like there's such great things you hear
Yeah.
about Vienna, and of course one day is not enough. So you must have
Definitely
gotten up
not.
and gone
Yeah.
like a headless chicken all over the place.
That's true. And I just went to the city center, and I could, whatever I could see, I just visited. And but the wine regions in Austria, they're quite fascinating because remember the couple of episodes earlier I had said that every year I make it a point that I visited at least a new wine region.
Yeah. So this
And
was
for
your
me,
first time?
Yeah, my first time in Austria, and that was quite interesting because Kamtal is a beautiful place, and it produces some really stunning wines, and the grape varieties which are really popular from Kamtal, Wagram and Karuntam, all 3 regions would be your Gruner Veltliner, which is in
yes, I've heard about that. It's extremely popular. And
it's one of the
extremely
most
difficult.
popular Austrian grape varieties.
Okay.
And then we also tasted reds like Blaufränkisch, which is a typical Austrian red grape variety. We tasted another grape called Zweigelt. For the first time I tasted that wine.
Okay.
Then they also produce a lot of typical international grape varieties like Pinot Noir. They produce Chardonnay, they produce Syrah and Merlot, and it's quite interesting. And Riesling. Riesling is one of the
right.
most
Yeah.
popular ones, and who could forget that? I mean, Austria produces some of the best Rieslings, in fact.
Wow.
So this was the plan, and on the first day we visited Kamtal. And Kamtal, as I mentioned earlier, there is some part of Kamtal which makes really good sparkling wines called Sekt. And Sekt, basically the higher premium quality Sekt, which is on the top base of the pyramid, they are produced as the same method as champagne.
Okay.
So they call the traditional method sparkling wine produced in that region. They also have the basic sparkling wines produced in different other styles of making, like tank fermentations.
So this is one region which is fully doing like sparkling wine. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and really good quality sparkling
Okay.
wines as well. Some of the producers were quite good. I mean, in a blind tasting, you could definitely not make out which is what. I mean, they could actually give good competition to champagne, maybe.
Wow.
The good quality Sekt. And so basically because Austria is very close to Burgundy in terms of latitude, sometimes people compare it a lot to the wines of Austria are usually compared to the Burgundy wines, like the Pinot Noirs, and the Rieslings are compared to the German Rieslings quite a lot. But just to understand where exactly Austria is, it's surrounded by Czech Republic, Switzerland, Slovenia, Slovakia, and Hungary. And Germany, of course. So, these are all good wine producing regions that surrounds Austria.
And that's why even it's very, even the region, the terroir that they say is very good in Austria for like wine producing, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why probably you get such great wine because of the entire climate.
There's a typical soil in most part of Austria that we visited. It's called Loess. Okay, so it's spelled Loess.
Okay.
And it's basically a mix of slate and sandy soil.
Okay.
So that soil texture is neither really soft or not very hard. And that helps in producing really good quality wines, which are rich, high in alcohol sometimes, and very fertile as soil.
And that's why you would say, like, because of this particular soil, that Austrian wines are special and different, because it's probably just in Austria?
Yes, exactly. I mean, you won't find that kind of soil in many parts of many wine growing regions in the world. So
Right.
that's something very special to Austria. And otherwise, they have your typical chalky limestone kind of soil in different parts, which is also very good for white wine production because that adds a lot of minerality to white wines. And that's one of the reasons why Gruner Veltliner is
Right.
so good, you know. And
So if you had to describe it, what would you say?
the soil quality,
Yeah.
soil types.
Yeah.
So in terms of geographical locations and the wine regions in Austria, the lower Austria part, which is also called the Niederösterreich region, the soil type is mostly sandstones and marls and Lita limestone. That's what they call, which is like dominant rocks which basically affect the vineyard structures in most part in this area. And just over 6% of the vineyards are located on soils overlaying crystalline bedrock of the Bohemian Massif. And these areas are dominated by acid, genesis, granites, and granulites. So that's the soil structure for the lower Austria region. In the Warsaw region, loess is often encountered, and it's a thin layer upon old rocks, and the coarse river gravels with a covering of fine flood sediments form this valley floor of the valley floor of Danube River
Okay.
in Austria. So the next one is your Kremstal region, which is one of the highest wine producing regions in Austria. So Kremstal has it's located on the southeastern arc of the region, and it's formed of crystalline bedrock. The area opens out towards the east into the alpine foreland, where primarily rocks are there. So the position is basically facing away the windward side and crystalline highlands, which is responsible for the widespread and sometimes very thick loess deposits as well. So as I mentioned earlier, loess is something which is an integral part of the soil structure in most parts of Austrian vineyard sites. Then you have the Kamtal region, which I visited. Of course, even Kamtal had the same loess soil, and they also had a mix of soils, like in the north, diverse and predominant acidic crystalline consolidated rocks basically dominate that area. And around Camp Valley, glacially derived loess deposits are again the most prevalent wine growing rock region in that area. So basically it's, slate, loess, all these consist of the major vineyard sites in Austria, and that really adds a lot of character to the grape varieties. Because I visited Kamstal, we'll just talk about the major grape varieties in the region.
Yeah.
First is a Gruner Veltliner, as mentioned earlier. Then second is Riesling. So these two basically are the predominant grape varieties in the region, and which are also used for making sekt, the sparkling wine in this region. So next we visited Wagram, which is a wine growing region that's received its new name in 2007, and previously it was known as Donnerland, and it's around 2,451 hectares of vines that are planted in the region. It's very close to the Danube River again, and the northern actual Wagram part has the same striking terrain that stretches some 30 kilometers along the northern bank of Danube, and very close to Kamtal as well, very close region. And the major grape varieties here are Gruner Veltliner, Riesling, and another interesting red grape variety called Roter Veltliner.
Okay.
So we tasted that too, and that was quite nice. And of course, then we have the Carnuntum region, Carnuntum. Carnuntum as a region hasn't gotten the official appellation yet, but they make really good red grapes, great wines such as Zweigelt and Blaufränkisch.
Okay.
So this was something interesting because I had never tasted Zweigelt in my life before, and this grape was something quite stunning. It comes really close to number of international grape variety, and especially Blanc-Frankish, which is also compared to grapes like Gamay and Pinot Noir. So that was quite interesting to try these wines. And
if I had to ask you, like, what are the people in Austria drinking? Like, if you'd say the locals, what did you notice? Like, what would you say is a famous go-to wine, which if someone's visiting can go and pick up?
I have seen a lot of people drinking the local wines, actually. And so I was talking to these guys and said most of their wine, which is produced in the country, is actually consumed domestically.
Right.
Gruner Veltliner is drunk quite a lot. Blanc-Frankish and Zweigelt are drunk quite a lot, and so is Riesling.
Okay.
So these four grape varieties are
the
the predominant ones, which are drunk by local people here.
Okay.
So these were the three major wine regions that I visited, but a lot of other people visited, the major other prominent wine regions in Austria as well. And so basically, the first day we all had a really nice gala dinner, and the next day we all left for the wine regions.
Right.
On the last day again we came back, and interestingly this year's Austrian Wine Summit was hosted alongside the European Sommelier Championship.
Okay.
So which means there was
So it was like the Olympics of the wine nerds.
Exactly. And the best part was there were some 37 sommeliers participating in the competition from all over Europe and 3 countries in Africa. And 12 semi-finalists were shortlisted, out of which 4 were the final round of that competition actually took place on the same night as the gala dinner. And the 4 contestants, they actually gave their test in front of all the guests on the stage.
Oh my
So we saw the live the competition happening in front of us,
And that
so
must
it was-
be like first of its kind. Like you have never seen anything like this before.
Yes. So, I mean, I had seen a lot of competitions earlier, but
Yeah, but
never
in, like, this
seeing
kind of an audience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
world-class competition being, conducted in front of you, in front of some 300 people. And those guys were really nervous. And the sommelier from Latvia, he won the first prize, which was quite exciting and very interesting. So in between all that, I had a small chat with the MD of the Austrian Wine Marketing Board.
Yeah, Mr. Willy Klinger.
Yes.
What's he like? What did he have to say? What was his mood over there?
He was very excited, really interested in the fact that so many people are, so curious to know about the Austrian wine industry, and obviously trying to explore what's going on in Austria and then popularizing the region in general. And so this is what he has to say. Let's move on to our D&D chat segment and listen to him.
D&D Chat.
Hi, we are with Mr. Willy Klinger. He is the head of Austrian Wine Marketing Board, and we're going to have a short chat with him. Hi, Willy.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Cheers.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your journey with the Austrian Wine Marketing Board and how things have evolved in the last few years.
I've always loved wine in my life. I'm the son of restaurateurs. So I started in wine business in 1987 in a time when the Austrian wine was in a very critical phase. There had been a kind of wine scandal in 1985, but which led on the other side to a totally new situation, new wine laws, very strict wine laws, and a sense for quality on one side at the producer side, on the other side, on the consumer side in Austria. So while we disappeared in this phase from all export markets, and we were not in India, and we were not in Japan, and we were not in America, but we were in Germany, we were in Europe, and we disappeared from the markets. But our consumers really knew that we had great winemakers, and that was the moment when so many great winemakers in Austria finally got a good price for their great wines. And there was a quality revolution going through this country. I'm holding a glass of red wine now. Can you imagine that before 1985 we only had 15% red wine production and nobody knew malolactic fermentation. So there was no knowledge about red wine, while we were always a great white wine country. So new developments in this initial phase of the recreation of Austrian wine was great red wines. We thought they came from French grape varieties. We used Barriques, and then we found out that we had great grape varieties in Austria. Blau-Fränkisch, St. Glauben, and Zweigelt are 3 of the most important. Red wine. No Steiermark Styrian wine available outside the German-speaking countries at that time, not even the Austrians knew very much about Steiermark and Styrian wine, about great Sauvignon from Austria. A wonderful development. Now Steiermark is really known for a great Sauvignon place together with Loire or New Zealand. Then Riesling and Grüner Veltliner, of course, are flagships. Yeah, the Grüner Veltliner in the lead. It was meant to be a very nice wine, but a wine for everyday drinking. Till we found out that this wonderful wine can be among the great wines in the world. The Reserve or Smaragd sessions of Grüner Veltliner, these are really great white wines. And they beat the international great white wines, Chardonnays from Burgundy and from all over the world in 2002 in blind tastings in London, in Tokyo and in Singapore. So this was a resurrection of a quality spirit in Austria. Now there's a much broader variety of Austrian wines, and the export, which was 2/3 in bulk prior to that time, has now concentrated on bottled wine, and the average price has more than tripled in 15 years.
Wow, that's great news. And you've also done a very big thing, which is basically creating a marketing board which promotes the region in such a successful way that it has set an example for other wine regions in the world. So what do you have to say about that?
I did tell you, of course, but because I didn't start with us, because it was the winemakers and maybe the law that was first more important. But at the same time, in 1986, there was the founding of the Austrian Wine Marketing Board. This is the ÖWM, where the first the first goal was to get back the reputation. So there was marketing campaigns, advertising campaigns, mainly in Austria and Germany. And then by the time it became PR, bringing people to Austria like you are here now, you visit the country, and we had all the good journalists of the world, or many of them, in the country visiting, touring around, seeing the winemakers, and we still think, and that's why we have the Wine Summit together with the European Sommelier Championship this time, bringing in people from up to 40 nations, on our trips. And this is also together with Via Vinum, which is every second year. This year is no Via Vinum, but there's every second year. So we have international people here. Now we think that wine marketing has a lot to do with people, has a lot to do with getting to know these countries. You have to see the vineyards, you have to taste the wines with the winemakers. Then you take a good message home, and that's what we believe in wine marketing.
Okay, so one last question. What is the future for Austrian wines?
The future for Austrian wine is, we are a small country. We have never any domination of the world markets, but we want to be on all great wine lists. All wine lists that have great international wines should have Austrian wines. From Vienna to Berlin, from Paris to New York, from Tokyo to Shanghai, and from Delhi and Mumbai to Australia and Sydney and Melbourne. We are on a good way. But there's a lot of work to do, and that's why we are working very hard, and we are very optimistic that we reach that goal.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Cheers again.
Thank you.
Wow, that was an interesting interview, and I'm sure it's not long before we'll see the Austrian wines in menus all over New York, Tokyo, Delhi, Bombay, and all of that, Rajita.
It's happening everywhere, but I don't
is.
know how far it's going to be possible in India. We right now have, around 4 or 5 wine labels from Austria in India. It's a very small quantity, but it's just that our duties and excise laws are so stringent. It makes it very difficult for us to import most of these really great quality, good wines, and especially because some of the Austrian wines that I tasted in this trip,
right.
the price range would start from around 5-6 euros and would go on till 50 euros.
Okay.
And those wines, especially the 50 euro ones, if they are being imported to India,
right.
by the time they come to our market, it's
just
at least 100 euros. 60-70 euros per bottle of wine, and that's not something that people would like to drink every day, and especially when you have so many other choices available.
Of course, for like cheaper prices and
that's true. But I'm very optimistic because in terms of quality, Austrian wines stand a really great chance. It's just that our importers have to be very selective, and they should start picking out at least the 5-6 euro wines, which would be still affordable for even after being imported to
and I would
India.
say
And
just to like bring in a variety into
maybe
the
a Bruno
market.
Veltliner, Blaufränkisch and
that'd be
Jägermeister.
amazing.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, because Austrian wines, by the looks of it, are going all over the world. So why not
and
make a little?
They pair very well with South Asian and Asian cuisine.
I
by
had
the
read
way.
that, that it pairs the best with like Vietnamese, Chinese cuisine, which is
even
again
Indian
India
cuisine.
is so popular, and the Indian Chinese could like pair well with an Austrian wine.
That's
Moving on to our next section. Well, we have Mother's Day and Father's Day, but
We have World Whiskey Day as well.
Exactly. So for all the whiskey lovers out there, we recently celebrated the World Whiskey Day on the 20th of May, and this is on the third Saturday every year.
Yes, that's true. So there's a bunch of whiskey enthusiasts. They started this day. Like you have Gin Day.
This
you
is
have
pretty recent, right? Because
so
like
this
growing
started a
up,
couple
I
of
had
years
not
back.
like heard of
Yeah.
like, hey, today's World Whiskey Day.
I know. So basically, to popularize more the whiskey consumption all over the world and different styles of whiskeys, this day came into existence. Otherwise, it wasn't there earlier. And what people do usually is get together somewhere. If you like whiskey, you bring a bottle of whiskey, you try out, you talk about the whiskey, discuss the region, discuss the ingredient in the whiskey, and that's how the day is celebrated. So all over the world, people, there are a lot of whiskey companies who do these promotional events. There are people who actually host events and do conduct whiskey tasting sessions in different bars and restaurants. And the same thing is happening in India as well. There are a lot of bars and restaurants and hotels who are doing whiskey
tastings,
appreciation sessions and tastings and whiskey pairing dinners, and then so all that is going on in Delhi, Bangalore, and we also had few events in Bombay. One was by the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States, where the American whiskeys were basically used to make some interesting cocktails, and the newly appointed American whiskey brand ambassador, Yangdup Lama. We were there for the cocktail session, and we had a small chat with Yangdup Lama, and this is what he had to say.
Hi, my name is Yangdup Lama, and I'm a professional bartender and a beverage consultant. I'm also the brand ambassador of American whiskey in India, appointed by the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States. World Whiskey Day is usually that one Saturday of May, which is usually the third Saturday of May, and it is identified as a day when we all get together in different parts of the world to celebrate whiskey in different formats. It could be neat, it could be on the rocks, it could be straight up, it could also be in the form of a cocktail, irrespective of style. So, whichever whiskey one prefers to enjoy or prefers to drink, whether it is a bourbon, whether it is a Scotch, whether it is a Tennessee or maybe even an Irish whiskey or a Canadian whiskey. It is all about celebrating whiskey and making whiskey cool. It's about drinking whiskey without any complexities. It's about whiskey as an easy drink or an easy spirit without any of the complications. American whiskey is usually whiskey that is made in the United States of America. There are many styles of American whiskey, out of which the most common is bourbon, or the most popular is bourbon whiskey. And then there is Tennessee whiskey and American rye whiskey. The bourbon and the Tennessee whiskey are very similar in terms of its process, in terms of its style, also to a large extent in terms of its taste. Made with 51% corn, always absolutely new charred white oak barrels, which ultimately gives all American whiskey its key character, which is the flavor. The rye whiskey is mostly 51% rye, and it follows all the other rules of bourbon. American whiskey also makes a great base for some of the most popular classic cocktails like the Old Fashioned, the Manhattan, the Whiskey Sour, and the Mint Julep. And this World Whiskey Day, we would be churning out a lot of these in our respective bars. Also, in the seminars to come, we'll be talking a lot about these whiskey cocktails and sampling them to a lot of the participants and the consumers. So I hope all of you have a great time as far as whiskey is concerned and celebrate the World Whiskey Day with a shot of bourbon or a bourbon cocktail on the 20th of May. Thank you.
So that was a fun episode, Rajita, after so long. And here's to looking forward to some amazing Austrian wines making their way to India. And, Whiskey Day, I hope we have many more days. Like, what if you're given a choice, what day would you like to have in a year? Wine Nerd Day, knowing you.
I know. Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
Celebrate
all the
wine
nerds get together.
Yeah.
And have a little party.
But that keeps happening so regularly. I don't think we need a special
but we
day.
need a day where like all you wine nerds are made to drink no wine and see like how you guys react in that atmosphere, which will be alien to you.
Yeah, so leave us in a room with all really great wines in one corner and don't let us drink them. So that would be like that would be a big punishment, by the way.
Absolutely. So we have some interesting day. I think there's a gin day as well, right?
Yeah, there is a gin day, there's a rum day, almost every...
beer day?
Of course there is.
I think there should be a beer year.
Beer is something which is celebrated throughout the year. I mean, you don't need a special day for that.
Exactly. So that's all for today, guys. You can tune into the Drinks and Destinations podcast on IVM Podcast app or any other podcast app on your iOS or Android. You can also give us your reviews and suggestions on drinksanddestinations@gmail.com. Also, you can tune into our episode every fortnight. And while we all love our tipple, make sure that you drink responsibly. Bye.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Sorry to say, but there's been a slight delay due to the apocalypse having suddenly begun. As you can see, there's death, destruction, and chaos taking place all around us. But don't you worry, food and drinks will be served shortly, and I would recommend checking out
IVM Podcasts
to get some of your favorite Indian podcasts. We'll keep you going till this whole thing blows over. Thank you.